Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Apostle Alauddin, joined by Secular Spirit. And today we'll be doing a live stream dissecting, I suppose, commenting on the efforts of a channel, YouTube channel, website, possibly an organization called Dawah is Easy. It was you who brought this to my attention. What did you think about it when you first came across it?
Well, the thing that I thought was so interesting was how it was just blatantly presented as here's a guide to talk to various different people who are non-Muslims. And it was interesting to me how they even had it categorized, as we're going to soon see, as a conversation. So it's almost like I used to work at a call center, so it reminded me of the scripts that I would get at a call center when I'm trying to convince people to. Well, my job was to sell people lottery tickets, $200 lottery tickets. It was not an easy sell, but perhaps an easier sell than Islam.
Well, do you feel bad about trying to sell people on lottery tickets?
I mean, no, not really, because I stuck to the script and I didn't really press it anymore. But you could argue maybe it was a lot of older people who maybe sometimes they were just lonely and wanted to have a conversation with someone. And I felt bad about the only incentive for me to participate in the conversation was because I was doing my job and trying to sell them on something that they definitely didn't need, but it was for charity. So there's that.
Hey, whatever you got to tell yourself to sleep at night.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, no, lotteries are usually not a good idea to participate in, just FYI, people, unless it's for charity, I suppose. Yeah, so back to the topic today.
Yes, yes.
I'll give you a hint of what is going to be on the screen. So we'll discuss what is Dawah. I mean, thankfully, this website is kind enough to define it for us. So maybe we'll start there. Dawah means to invite. That's what the Arabic word and it literally means invitation, to invite people to Islam. There are many different ways to invite to Islam. Obviously, the most important is by our example. The Prophet Muhammad gave da'wah through his personality, honesty, and truthfulness, as well as direct invitation, as well as war and invasion and slavery and other means that are not mentioned here. Um,
Get to that
but
later.
yeah, we'll get to that later. I mean, if we are just gonna, if all Muslims followed in Muhammad's footsteps, I guarantee you there wouldn't be converts or not as many converts as there are right now, because you would probably not, want to join a religion of a person who traffics human beings. But that's we're I don't know if we're gonna get there today. Full disclosure. I didn't quite go through these guides yet because I wanted to be surprised by them. I wanted to give you my authentic reaction. So they do have a YouTube channel, which might be the topic for another day. But for today, we're going to go through a couple of, or maybe three, PDF guides that they have on how to converse with people from other backgrounds. So there's the dialogue with any non-Muslim, dialogue with Christians. That might be interesting. We could
Well,
get
I
to
love
that
the
one.
one next to it too. Dialogue with Christians, an easy flowchart.
And this one's a dialogue with Christians, not an easy flow chart. So you got you got to have high IQ for that one. Um, Dawah to a Christian version 9 or verses I don't know what this is, verses
Yeah,
9.
verses or yeah.
Dawah to Hindus, to atheists, and so on and so forth. Some leaflets, a brief Islam guide. Where do you think we should begin today? Any non-Muslim or atheists?
Well, just taking a look at the most popular ones. Let's start with the most popular one, which is dialogue with any non-Muslim. That one has the most hits.
Sure. Let's click preview, see if we can just read it here. Okay. Can everyone see this clearly? Hopefully so. Um, so, do you want to play the Muslim or the non-Muslim in this scenario?
Okay, I'll start as the Muslim, and then we can switch roles maybe at some point halfway through.
Sure. Yeah, I'm very good at taking that side of the conversation.
Okay.
Go ahead,
All
take it
right.
away.
So I guess setting the scene where maybe we're walking down the street, maybe we're in the supermarket, trying to think of what is the best possible way to bring it up to a stranger. Let's say we're walking down the street, and I approach you. All right. Hey, can I tell you a bit about Islam?
Um, so I could say yes, I could say no. So let's say I said no. I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So my instructions there are, I need to try to find some other way of starting it, relating it to some natural events such as the tsunami, I like it, or other disasters. So, okay, maybe what I would say to you is, well, you know how there's all of these natural disasters in the world. Don't you ever wonder why they happen?
I mean, how dare you talk to me about that when we're literally flooding right now because of the tsunami? Now's not the best time, but okay, sure. Yeah, I am wondering why my aunt's house got washed away in a tsunami, and why she barely made it out of there. Can you explain why?
Those questions of why, I'm kind of improving
Yeah.
based on this one. Those questions of why are so important. And for me as a Muslim in Islam, I look to the creator of the universe as the most important thing in answering these questions. But before I continue, can I ask, do you believe in a creator?
No, I don't.
Wow. Okay, then we have to go to dialogue with an atheist. All right.
Okay,
Wow,
okay,
this is this
let's
is like
let's
one of those, like what were they, like those Goosebumps books where you have to jump to different pages.
it's like a choose your own
Yeah,
adventure.
choose your own
Um,
adventure. Yeah.
Okay, let's assume for the sake of the argument that I do because we want to continue in this guide. Also, notice how like if the person says no, I'm not interested, you don't walk away. You don't say, well, okay, I respect your opinions, or
No.
your wish not to be disturbed. Let me bring up a natural disaster and spin it into a way that my God is real. But I also understand the other side of it, which is, if God is real and you got to save everybody, you
Then
might as
yeah.
well be pushy about it. Okay, let's say I do believe in a creator or possibly multiple. I believe there's something bigger than us. Where do we go from here?
All right. Well, we as Muslims believe this creator has the following characteristics. He sees everything, he hears everything, he knows everything, he has no beginning, he has no end, he is neither male nor female. There is nothing like him. He is absolute perfection. Nothing happens except that he knows it. A leaf doesn't fall from a tree anywhere in the universe. I feel like I would have already lost you at this point, by the way,
Yeah, yeah. I'm
but
already
you would
looking
have
at my
walked away.
watch. I'm looking around.
Yeah,
I'm like, hey, do I recognize
first.
anybody? Can I get out of this conversation?
Yeah, first critique, make it a bit shorter in the beginning. But anyway, a leaf doesn't fall from a tree anywhere in the universe except that he knows it. He is perfect in his beauty, his love, his majesty. Do you agree with these? Sorry, I forgot to ask your name actually. Okay.
Oh.
Second edit, maybe ask for the person's name earlier on. Yeah,
I
what
love
is
how
your name?
they kept it here, right? Because if you watch that guy's videos, or I haven't watched a lot of his videos, but typically those street Dawah men, they're usually in that style of conversation that's like, fast talking, kind of trying to trap you into saying yes or no answers, not really actually caring about you or listening to you. It's about the process, it's about the
Yes,
script.
yeah. It's just the script. And Sohail said he's neither male or female is funny because then it describes him as a he. I think immediately after.
Yeah. And it would be offensive to call God a she, right? Even
Oh yeah,
though, some people could think of God or nature as a she because women are the source of life in many ways because they give birth. Because you can't have I guess you could have a virgin birth, but you still need to have a woman, not a man, if you believe in that.
Oh,
Okay.
Kobarto had something to say actually. The trick behind asking for the name later is that the one being talked to can't reply with yes or no. So maybe it, incites some active participation.
You know what?
Good sales trick, perhaps.
That is insightful because look at the script here. Say, my name is John, okay? Or say, my name is Aladdin, and you respond with, okay, John. I'm like, no, my name is Aladdin.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're just sticking to the script. My name is Aladdin. What do you say?
Oh, it sounds like you come from a Muslim background.
Sorry, no, my name is John. Let me go back to John. Okay,
Uh,
my name is John.
John, well, it doesn't say anything here, but I would probably say, oh, nice to meet you, John. My name is, insert
No, no, no,
here.
no, no. Follow the script. We're
Ah,
here to
okay.
follow the script as a guide.
All right.
Don't
Okay. Yeah.
improvise.
Time.
You might
Time
be
is
better than
money.
him. Yeah.
Time is
So
money.
follow
Okay,
the script.
John,
Yeah.
do you think that he made us for a reason?
I'm conflicted because I want to play along, but also I can't help but notice how he jumped from asking me Do you agree with these and not letting me answer to do you think he made us for a reason? Already assuming that there's a he who made us. So now the
Hmm.
question isn't whether I agree with all these attributes and all these descriptions, but whether or not I think there's a reason for creation. Not even whether or not there is a process of creation. Okay, so if I say yes, you follow these arguments. No, then we continue. So
Okay.
let's say I say, I wouldn't say yes, but let's say I said yes.
Follow the argument below. Okay. All right. What do you think that is? And
The reason?
invariably, they don't know. Yeah.
Um, I think God created us because um, he was bored and had nothing in his equal. So he sort of diffused his consciousness into all of us to sort of experience the universe through our experiences vicariously. Does the script allow for that?
Well, that's very interesting, John. Let me tell you more about what Muslims think about this. Scroll scroll down, please.
But you're not engaging with me. Okay. Let's say, for the sake of this very simplistic, predatory script, if I say no, I don't, I can't know what that reason is. I'm just assuming there's a creator, but we can't really know what that creator thinks or wants.
Hmm. Okay. So, for example, if you made something, John, and someone asked you, why did you make it? You'd have to have a reason, wouldn't you? Well, the same
Um,
way we believe our creator has made us for a reason. Do you know what that reason is? To
oh,
tell us the reason. Wait, no, I'm still talking here, John. To tell us the reason our creator chose certain human beings to give us the message. Some of these people were Abraham,
okay. I gotta
PBUH.
stop you there. I
Wait,
gotta
I
stop.
have way more PBUHs to get through.
No. I'm already leaving. Like this is not gonna work. Um, so to answer your question, have you like would you create a thing without a reason? Yeah, I scribble all the time. Like when I'm bored sometimes or I'm listening, I'm scribbling on a paper. It doesn't even have to be necessarily artistic in any way. And to me, that scribbling, it doesn't mean anything in and of itself except that it helps me focus on what I'm actually supposed to be interested in.
There
So
you go. There is the reason then. You're expressing your creativity. You're keeping yourself occupied with your boredom. There's always a reason, John.
So what if we're like the sawdust off of God's carpentry shop? What if we're the discarded scribbles that he just made on the side while he was actually focusing on something else?
John, you don't know that. I'm going to tell you about all the prophets that actually told us why. Can I do the PBUHs now, please?
Are we talking about my beliefs or are we talking about your prophets and your beliefs? Because that sounds interesting, but it doesn't bring me any closer to believing.
Well, again, I'm getting off script here. I'm going to tell you what we believe, and you're going to go soon see why it's
Okay.
something you should believe too.
This conversation is mostly about you, I see, but sure, go ahead.
So some of these people were Abraham, peace be upon him, Moses, peace be upon him, Noah, peace be upon him, Jesus, peace be upon him, and Muhammad, peace be upon him. I'm sure you must have heard of some of these names, John. As they brought a message from God, they were the messengers of God. Now, we believe these messengers of God all came with the same information, good news and a warning.
I'm just snoozing.
John, you okay?
You already lost me.
Just hold on, John. I'm getting there. Trust
Okay.
me. Okay, so not good news and bad news. To prove that they were sent by God, he gave them miracles. For example, Jesus brought the dead back to life, cured the leper, not a leper, the leper,
Hmm.
and healed the blind, all with God's permission. After Jesus, Almighty God, out of his love and mercy, sent another messenger. His name was Muhammad. Muhammad was also given a miracle to prove that he was indeed chosen and sent by God. The miracle given to the Prophet Muhammad is a book called the Quran. This book is a miracle for a number of
Okay.
reasons.
What's your
John,
name,
John,
by the way?
John,
We never got to your name. What's your name? You never introduced
John,
yourself.
I have so many scientific facts to tell you.
Okay, what is your name, Mister Guy with a beard and a shirt that says "Ask me about Islam"?
Well,
What's your name?
I'm whatever name you think would be best for me to
Why are you
tell you.
afraid to tell me your name? Let's go with Alim. Okay,
My
Alim.
name is Halim, John.
Okay,
It's
Alim
so
John.
nice
Your
again.
dad was called John.
Again, John, it's so nice to meet you. I don't think it was a chance that we crossed paths today. I think this was meant to be. Again, I think this would help with
Okay,
the sale.
you're talking way too slow for a Dawah, man. You have to be like quick. You have to be like a
Am
guy at an
I?
auction, like an
Mm,
auction.
do I need more? Do you want to take over at this point? By the way,
Yeah, we could switch. Okay.
yeah, yeah. I think if I was to critique myself, I needed a bit more, you know, arm gestures. Like if I'm talking about the
Yeah,
world and
yeah. Like John. Listen. Okay, let's switch. But first, what do you want to point out about everything that you said so far? The Dawah man said.
well, I think it's a little bit too much give and not much and not enough take, if you know what I mean by that. Like I'm giving a lot of information, but I'm not getting the person I'm talking to participate that much. I'm kind of just just barraging them with information. And if you remember before this latest barrage started, I'm trying to explain the reasons why God created us, but why am I spending now so much time talking about these messengers and how we know they're for real? I feel like
Right.
it would be best to start with the reason and then kind of go back to explaining how we know that this is real, if that makes sense.
So, are we giving constructive criticism to Dawah men to improve their pitches?
I I guess unintentionally I've started to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't help it. It's it's your education. Okay, so yeah, that's a good point. We're not really talking about the reason God created everything, which Islamically is to worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We have not created humanity and jinn except to worship. Now, people can twist it in so many ways and say, well, it's because it's a mercy for you to go to heaven eventually when you do follow through. And, well, you could ask, well, what about hell? I didn't, consent to go to hell if I fail this test. And they say, well, you consented before you were created, and then God wiped your memory. Sure, whatever. We're getting sidetracked here. It's very hard to stick on script because it's so rigid and silly.
Yeah, the script's a bit too limited.
It's like I would really struggle to not derail this so much. Like it's hard to stay on track. But let's say, okay, I am
Okay,
the
you're
Dawah man right
now
now. Yeah,
you're now Alim,
and you are
and I'm
John.
John. Okay, I'm
Okay,
John.
okay, John. So all these messengers, right? All these miracles. Some of the reasons. Okay, wait. This book is a miracle for multiple reasons. The book is back there, so I can't point to it. But this Quran is a miracle for multiple reasons. Some of the reasons are like scientific facts. It contains facts. For example, embryology, verse number 12 to 14 of chapter 23. Are you convinced yet? Like,
Well, I'm assuming you as a Dawah man know it by heart, right? Especially because this is a really popular one for Muslims to bring up as a scientific fact that proves that the Quran couldn't have been man-made.
I'm trying to remember which one this is. I should have done some
It's
prep.
it's
I
the
know it's
one
nutfa, thumma
where
alaqa,
yeah,
thumma
yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah,
that's
blah.
it. But basically, for anyone who doesn't know, basically it's a description of how an embryo grows and becomes,
Oh, wait, wait,
a fully.
interesting. I just looked it up. I just looked it up right now, and it's more interesting than that. Verse number 12 of which surah is this? Surah number Surah Al-Mu'minun. It says, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ. Verily, we created man from a product of wet earth. I'm sorry, what? This is the miracle that we're starting with? That we're all made from mud? Is that actually true, that we're made from mud? Kind of kneecapping myself here. Maybe I should have started with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next
Ali
one.
kind of skip past that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Skip verse 12. Actually, it's 13. 13 says, ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةً. So then we placed him as a drop of seed in a safe lodging. I guess that's the miracle pod that they're pointing to. That, right, the sperm looks like a drop of seed. So, that's a description right there. ثُمَّ خَلَقْنَا النُّطْفَةَ عَلَقَةً فخلقنا العلقة مضغة, and so on. There's describing a clot and then into a little lump, and then فكسونا العظام لحما. So we clothe the bones with flesh. So I think we're getting sidetracked here, but to describe to people what this miracle supposedly is, how could someone before MRIs know that there are stages to fetus development, right, that are not really accurately described at all? They're saying tiny thing, bigger thing, bigger thing. Okay, like that's not a miracle to think that obviously the woman didn't have a baby inside her and then it started growing. Like that's they think of people before science, before this modern age, as drooling idiots, essentially. Like, how could they have known anything? So God must have told them that. And then supposedly this describes the stages of embryology correctly, but that's false. It's not that there's bones that are created and then flesh that is coated. It says literally here, it says, ثم sorry, فخلقنا المضغة عظما فكسونا العظام لحما. So then we covered the bones with flesh. That's not how the stages go. But somehow I'm supposed to be using this as a miracle to convince you that before MRIs, God knew that and he told people in that book.
Well, to me, it's interesting why is that the first thing that you mention? You know, Alim. Like,
Yeah.
why do you think that's the thing that's going to convince me the most?
Okay, so back to Dawah mode. The reason I mentioned it is because I'm trying to convince you that this book that I'm holding in my hand, the Quran, is a miracle. Because I have no way to really prove to you that Islam is true. Well, simultaneously, Islam is about faith, but also it's about evidence. But here I'm relying on evidence somehow. And the evidence is that this book contains things that people wouldn't have known back then. So is that convincing to you?
I'm listening. Keep going.
Okay. So that's a scientific fact that they couldn't have known back then somehow. The Big Bang, that's yet another verse that somehow they now say is the Big Bang, because the verse says something like and the
It's actually there.
Yeah. Let me actually read it in Arabic because I don't know if I trust their translation.
The translation.
They usually do this where they like change some words to make it seem like there was a meaning there that wasn't actually there before.
Yeah.
أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا. So it's saying that the heavens and the earth were once one piece, then we parted them. Big Bang, subhanAllah.
Big Bang.
How did they know that? But that's not actually what happened, that they were like all one piece and then we parted them. Like, you'd have to really be stretching it to think of it as...
Yeah. If
that's
I
the
was,
Big Bang.
if me as John was like a skeptical, critical thinker, I would say it sounds like you're just using some bias and very generous interpretation to make these things fit the Big Bang theory or embryology.
And keep in mind that it's also like there are descriptions of, for example, the sky being some kind of like solid object that is held up by pillars. That is not in any way true.
That's a metaphor. That's a metaphor.
Yeah, see, like, how do we decide which one's a metaphor and which one's an actual description of what scientists eventually discovered? It's nothing. But anyway, I'm not doing a great job of being a Dawah man right now.
Yeah. I gotta say, I'm unimpressed so far.
The construction of mountains. Oh, about that. Okay, sidetrack for a second. I know that this document, I opened it once. This is a book that I own.
Oh
that
my
I
God.
owned since I was a teenager.
I have that book too.
Yes.
No way.
It's Islamic propaganda. And I had this book and another book. They're actually here on my bookshelf. I'll pull them up in a second. And in them, they talk about mountains. Let's say.
No way. I think I got this book, like someone just on the street handed me a copy of this book like years and years and years ago.
That might be how you came across it. There's there's something here about mountains. I'll pull it up later, but essentially this talking point that he has here, he doesn't really explain it in his dawah pitch. Mountains. The Quran talks about the construction of mountains, and therefore that's a scientific miracle. But what they're trying to say is that God made the mountains like pillars to prevent earthquakes. Construction of mountains. There's a verse that says, وَجَعَلْنَا الْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. We made them like pillars. But that's not how mountains are created.
Not quite, no.
Not quite, not at all.
No mention of tectonic plates whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's not that they prevent earthquakes. sometimes they're formed by the same
Yeah,
or
exactly.
mechanisms that cause earthquakes. So I remember someone making this sort of analogy before, saying, well, like if that energy wasn't diffused into the ground becoming a mountain through these tectonic plates meeting and shifting and one being on top of the other or both of them raising, that energy would dissipate into an earthquake, and therefore the mountains prevent earthquakes. But that's such a like that's such a backwards way of looking at it, that, oh, okay, well, so God was right, mountains no, they don't prevent earthquakes. Earthquakes happen because of the same mechanisms that create mountains. And again, someone taking a wild shot at the dark and saying something about mountains and earthquakes, or just it doesn't even mention earthquakes in the Quran. It just says mountains and pillars. Like, that's a vague statement. It doesn't require some innate knowledge about the universe that no one could have figured out to say that God created the mountains as pillars. Well, they kind of look like they're stuck in place and they're not going anywhere, so that resembles a pillar in a way. Anyway, somehow I don't know what this bullet point is supposed to convince you of, but the Quran talks about the construction of mountains and pain receptors for burning in the skin. Wait, what? This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, that's a new one to me. Is it saying that when your skin gets burned, that's because there's nerves that are sensitive to it? I'm not really sure what that one's
I
saying.
have no clue what he's
Well, I
referencing
can't
here.
tell you. I'm not a Muslim.
I'm
Why are you
sorry. I got
asking
to
me?
talk to headquarters about this. They don't give us proper training these days anymore. Uh, I've never heard of this before. This claim that the Quran knew that there are like pain receptors. But okay, whatever this point is, I'm sorry, I'm doing a terrible job of being a Dawah man. What is miraculous about people knowing that you can feel pain because of something in your body? Like, did people not feel pain
No.
back then, or get in wars and get stabbed and and die in all sorts of painful ways?
Yeah, I feel like that knowledge was accessible to people back then.
And the whole premise of scientific miracles, the entire premise falls on this unstated assumption. People back then knew nothing and were stupid, and they could not have known anything at all. But now we have technology and we can know things. So either they had access to some secret alien technology back then, or divine knowledge from God. But who created MRIs? How did we come to the point where we have technology? It wasn't divine sent. It wasn't like anything in the Quran was then used to build on and discover electricity and create MRIs and then figure out how many bones there are in the body. It's all because of humans. So to minimize the contribution of the scientific contribution and scientific knowledge of so many people over thousands of years, how do you think we got here? Like, now it's accelerated, but it took so long of accumulated knowledge, and like, people weren't stupid. So they want you to think that people back then were so stupid that they couldn't have known anything unless God told them. And whenever their description in the Quran, the author's description of the universe, is false, well, it's a metaphor. Well, it doesn't mean what it means. Yeah. Anyway, terrible, terrible Dawah person I'm being right now. I'm not convincing you. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Forget the miracles. Okay, you're not convinced? You need more
No.
reasons? Okay. See, they do that. They give you 1,000 bad reasons, and
Yeah,
hopefully
they
in there's
yeah, it's
something.
it's the barraging method. So like no one piece of evidence is that convincing, but somehow a lot of not very convincing things inevitably proves that it's true. And I think that approach works for a lot of things beyond just like Islam, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I always want to remind people, we're not claiming here that this predatory approach is unique only to people who want to convince you of this particular belief, or people from a specific ethnic background, or anything of the sort. It's pointing out that commonality in these sleazy tactics, whether it's a salesperson trying to sell you on a timeshare, whether it's a cult member or a cult recruiter, whether it's an army recruiter trying to get you to join the army of a country that you don't want to join. Uh, it's there's a lot of common tactics here. So please don't take this to mean that these are the only dishonest ways to make somebody join a religion ever. But this is one very common example I guess, in invitation to Islam. So yeah, forget all the scientific miracles. Maybe you're not a man of science, or maybe you're too much of a man of science that none of this really hits close to home to you. What about this? Muhammad was unlettered. They used to say uneducated, or what was it?
Illiterate.
Illiterate, yes. But now they say unlettered. So he did not know how to read or write.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, hear me out. This book was given to a man who could not read or write. How do we know that? Because it says so in the Quran. I'm sorry, that caught me by
Wow.
surprise.
Wow.
Um, Keep in mind that like you're somebody who doesn't believe in Islam.
Which
So
fallacy is that? Begging the question.
is this like circular logic?
Circular. Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's a circular claim. Like how do we know that? Because it's in the Quran. But you,
And his wait,
yeah,
wait. Finish the sentence.
you Alim are sorry, you
Wait,
John,
I'm John. You're Ali.
you John, me Alim,
I don't
you
know if you're
John,
so alim after all. But anyway, keep going.
you John don't think it means jack if something is written in the Quran or in the Bible or in whatever other holy text. It doesn't really mean anything. Like it's not a a point of authority here. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was just saying, go ahead and finish the sentence.
Yeah, yeah. So, how do we know that? Because it says so in the Quran, and his enemies never called him a liar.
Oh, okay, okay. That's good to know. Thank you for. So, are you implying that this means that Muhammad didn't write the Quran? Why does that? Why are you telling me this?
Well, wait. So you're telling me you're not convinced already that Islam is the truth?
Mm, no.
Okay. So, the reason I'm telling you this is because if he couldn't read or write, how could he come up with a book as amazing as the Quran?
Ah, okay. I understand now. Well, you probably should have explained that instead of me having to ask you. But it's okay, Alim. I'm patient. I don't have anywhere to be for the next hour.
Okay. That's a good point, by the way. They did call him a liar. Like there are people throughout history who called him a liar, but even if there weren't, like how do we know anything about Muhammad's life? Because of what Muslims wrote about Muhammad. We don't have any sources whatsoever
No,
about
no.
Muhammad that aren't Islamic.
The thing that I find useful telling people sometimes, just as a point of comparison, is that Muhammad is from roughly the same time period as King Arthur of Camelot. And when you think that they say that King Arthur might have been based on a real person, but it's completely been lost, a lot of truth and facts can be lost in those 1400 years.
Yeah. And like when they say that even his enemies didn't call him a liar. When I was a kid, that might have kind of worked on me
Yeah.
because I took the story as truth, right? As well, this guy, his enemies didn't call him a liar, but somehow they so stubbornly refused to join Islam because why? Well, because they suck and they deserve to be tortured in hell. But that's sort of like the simple story that they tell children and apparently adults now. Um, Okay, that's a good point. Space Leah says they never called him a liar. That's what misogynists say about people calling them out on their BS. Like it's like when someone there's a scandal that someone was harassing people, and the community defends him by saying, "But nobody else thinks he's a bad person." Um, anyway, yeah. So he was unlettered, meaning that he couldn't have written the Quran. Do you think that's convincing enough for you to join Islam?
No, I need to hear more.
Okay. I mean, there's more to say about this point if you really want to be a prick about it and really destroy it. But let's move on. The Quran has remained unchanged. It has remained unchanged for 1400 years. See for yourself in the British Library. Apparently, there might be an old manuscript there. And there's a verse that I can quote about it is we who have sent down the dhikr, and surely we will preserve it. What do you think of that?
Um, okay, so what does that prove that it hasn't been unchanged? Just because the Quran says that it won't be changed?
Well, yeah. So it called it out. That's a miracle, right? That it says in the Quran that it will
It's a
not be changed.
miracle. It's a
Yeah,
miracle. Okay.
preservation miracle. So it called it out that it will not be changed. And also, do you see any other book that has not been changed for 1400 years?
Can't think of one.
Exactly. Therefore, Islam is the truth.
Uh, but how does that prove that it's of divine
But can you think
origin?
of any other book that has been preserved for 1400 years?
Uh, the Bible?
No, no, no. That has been translated and translated and changed. Can you think of any
Uh,
other book that has been preserved for 1400 years?
I'm stuck. I can't. I don't read that many books, to be honest with you, Halim.
Okay, so you agree with me then that the Quran is divine.
I think I still need a little bit more. I gotta be honest.
Okay, so by the way, that's
I
how
don't
they
want to be
get you.
rude.
That's how they get you. When the question becomes, can you give any other example of a book that has been as preserved? And perhaps you don't read a lot of books or you don't really care about the preservation of books, and you say, no, I don't. They're like, aha, so you do agree with my point that Islam is the truth. So, like the question, they're always shifting the question. At first, it was, do you agree with these lists of attributes about God? And don't even give you a chance to answer and then ask you, well, what do you think the reason for creation is? So you implicitly agree with everything else before. But by the way, like to be the critic here again, I'm not the Dawah person at the moment. Um, there are many different versions of the Quran. Muslims would then
I
change the
was gonna say
argument,
that, yeah.
yeah, to like, well, the differences aren't that big. Well, it's just a few words, a few letters. It's not that big of a deal. And there are documented the attempts to what was it to standardize the Quran. It was after Muhammad's death by a while. All the copies were burned except for the ones that the caliph thought, the Khalifa thought were the correct
Yep,
ones, and so
that's
on.
historically documented. Yep.
Yeah. And the bigger question becomes, so God got off of his throne and finally preserved something. But since the beginning of creating the universe, right? He created this entire universe billions of years ago, Big Bang, that they now acknowledge happened, and so on and so forth, evolution up until we get to humans that are smart enough to actually have language, or, I don't want to say smart, have the cognitive abilities to communicate and socialize. And then started sending messengers, and then didn't preserve their message, and then confused people into thinking, well, there's Judaism, but not really anymore. There's Christianity, not really anymore. But this book I'm going to preserve, this final book. Why did he not preserve the past ones? And yeah, okay, here's a good comment. I don't see how the book being preserved makes it the truth. Like the lie can also be preserved.
That's a
I-
great point.
I'll tell you what their point is when they say preservation. Their point is not just has there been another text that has been preserved for this long, because there have been other texts that have been preserved for this long and longer. Like if you go to, for example, ancient temples and monuments, the texts on the walls have been there for thousands of years. We're talking like 1400 years ago is Islam, 3000 years before that, or 2000 years before that. That's an insane amount of time for something to be preserved. So then the argument becomes, well, is there any other text that has been preserved and memorized by so many people and practiced? So they keep like changing the criteria of what proves a religion till it becomes specifically what they're looking for.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's not about preservation, it's about preservation plus everything else.
yeah. You always have to look at these things as like a collection of evidence, not just the one thing. The thing I would say again as a skeptic is, and this is building on the commenter that just made that comment, was um, while it's impressive that, let's say, it has been preserved for 1400 years, that's impressive. But does that meet the threshold of being a miracle, or that everything in it is true? I would say no.
I mean, if there's a verse that for 1400 years says you can beat your wife, it doesn't mean that God said it, just because people have been doing it for so long. So just because it's there or unchanged allegedly, despite, it actually being changed. Um, anyway, moving on. Okay, so you don't like that one. You are not going to
Mm,
convert to Islam because
eh,
of the preservation.
no,
Um,
I'm unimpressed.
how about this one? I've been keeping this one up my sleeve. You're not going to believe this. It is easy to memorize. It is so easy to memorize that millions of people have done so all over the world, even though it's about the size of a paperback book. And Allah even predicted this in a miraculous verse. We made it easy to remember. What do you think?
Uh, Again, I would say the same thing as with my last one. It's impressive, but to meet the threshold of being a miracle that's divine, I don't know if it reaches that. Because if anything, it's actually more impressive what we can do as a society when we tell people you got to memorize this thing. It's super important from as early an age as possible.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to be a Dawah person here again, but like, can you name any other book that has been memorized by as many people?
As many people, no, maybe the Bible, but the Bible's way longer.
And it's not memorized by as many people.
Yeah.
So do you agree that Islam is the truth?
No, again, I think it's impressive, but maybe it's just more like a testament to how faithful people are more than their faith being true
But you
necessarily.
can't provide an example of any other book that has been memorized as many times as the Quran.
Well, that's super cool and nice and everything for you. I'm really happy for you, Alim, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually from God.
So what they do there again is like create a criteria that is unique to their religion or they think is unique to their religion. And even if that is, disproven, you find another religion with a similar criteria, they add another one.
Yeah,
So, a book that has been memorized for so long, well, other people memorize books, but not as many people. So there's the criteria of numbers too. So was it then that the Quran was not true back when there weren't that many people memorizing it? Like there was a point where the Torah was probably more memorized than the Quran, right? When the Quran was still new before all the conquests and everything. Um, does that mean that the Quran was not true back then, up until that threshold where there are more Muslims than other followers? Um, the arguments are annoying,
I
my
saw that
fireside
one too.
chat.
I was about to highlight it.
You're not wrong. And
What's
also,
so interesting is the same arguments. Like, I mean, you've heard all of these before, haven't you?
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
same.
and Raysam says, I was forced to memorize it, and it was such a big waste of my childhood, especially since it's my native tongue. It's not my native tongue, and I wasn't taught interpretation. So many people I've spoken to who don't speak Arabic as a first language, either like a few of them would be encouraged or forced or instructed to learn Arabic and also learn the Quran, but the majority of them are instructed on how to read and enunciate and pronounce Arabic, not understanding what it means, just so they can memorize the Quran and read the Quran. So even that, like I understand that their parents or their instructors' point of view is that it might be hard to learn an entire language that we don't even speak, but at least reading it in its native language is how God intended, and that's how you get the most points. But why does God give a crap what language you're reading it in? And why is the meaning not preserved in other languages? Why do you gatekeep yet simultaneously say it's miraculous? Because no one can validate the miraculousness except you, like except the people who speak that language. And when people dissent and say, well, I don't see what's miraculous about it and I speak Arabic, they say, well, you don't speak the exact kind of Arabic that I like. Even if you do, they'll say, well, you're just a hater. Like that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
boils down to. And
There's
to
always going to be
echo,
something.
yeah, and to echo this sentiment, I memorized a big chunk of the Quran. I won't say all of it, a big portion of it, at least half of it, and then I continued and I was forgetting the first part. And it was not easy, and it was not
Wow.
by choice, and it was not fun. Maybe some people enjoy it more than I do, but I don't think that would qualify as a miracle or some kind of impressive thing either. Yeah, if you force kids to learn something, they will learn it. That's not a miracle. That's a testament to how much Muslims force their children to learn Quran. Or maybe sometimes the kids are enthusiastic too. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
that doesn't happen. But I'll tell you how often it happens that kids are beaten when they don't memorize the Quran properly. Like forget, like not like refusing to memorize. Sometimes they try, and I'll speak from experience. I had a sheikh who would like hit me with a like not a ruler, like a piece of like rubber when I would make a mistake in reciting. So it's not me saying, screw your religion, screw this Quran, why am I even doing this? No, it's just I attempted to memorize and I made a mistake in recitation. Now tell me that shit was easy. Like if Alim was here in front of me right now, Alim the Dawah man, I would tell him to fuck off. Like seriously, I would love to cosplay, like pretend to be a John just for one of these guys to approach me, and just so I can demonstrate to them like how they're just regurgitating stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that didn't convince you that the book is easy to
No,
memorize.
no. I need more. Give me more.
Okay. How about this? The book does not contain one single contradiction, even though it was revealed over a period of 23 years. And then there's a verse that I can
Whoa.
spit out. Yeah. What do you think of that?
I mean, is that really true?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, because
So,
I'm telling you it's true. Can you
but
verify that in this conversation?
but I mean, I'm sure that there's other books that don't have a single contradiction. Does that mean that they're divine?
Well, do these books claim to be divine?
I guess not. No.
Okay, well there you go. This is the only book that claims to be divine and has no contradictions.
Well, I mean, I guess I can't just accept that on your authority, but I guess maybe I could look into the Quran and see if I can find any contradictions.
Okay. Say you find something and you point it out to me. Like what am I supposed to say to that?
Well, you could say a whole bunch of things probably. I'm just thinking from a Muslim's perspective here for a second. You know, me being John, uh, maybe you could say that, oh, you're just interpreting it incorrectly, or oh, well, that was actually meant for a specific time period, so that's why it seems like a contradiction, but it actually holds because it's for two different time periods, so on and so forth.
But there are no contradictions in it. And nothing you can say would convince me otherwise. Because if you convince me, or if I admit that there is a contradiction, I would be contradicting Allah.
Which is impossible. I'm starting to understand now because you said a bunch of stuff about him in the beginning. Like he was beautiful and perfect and loving. I can't remember now. It was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Even Allah's attributes, I would argue, some of them are contradictory. Like you can't be the most vengeful and the most merciful at the same time. You can't
And,
be just and the most merciful. Justice is not mercy.
and yet he manages it somehow.
Yeah. He's a jack of all trades and a master of all trades, apparently. Um, okay, let's continue. So that does not convince you. My
No,
claim
no,
that the
no.
Quran has no contradictions.
I mean, I'd have to investigate it, and even
Okay,
then, I'm still not sure if it would convince me.
okay. How about this? The Quran contains a challenge that I will extend to you right now. Okay? God says that if all of mankind and jinn kind, spirits, do you believe in spirits, by the way? That's a whole other discussion. Um,
That needs another PDF.
Yeah. If they all got together, they couldn't produce a book like the Quran. In another part of the Quran, God says they couldn't even produce one surah like the Quran. The shortest surah is 3 sentences, and all of humanity and the jinn together couldn't produce 3 sentences like the Quran. Therefore, God is telling us that this challenge has stood for 1400 years. What do you think of that?
How was this challenge judged? Like who participated and submitted, you know, something like it, and then who judged whether it was like the Quran or not?
Well, there was, I can't remember this off the top of my head, but I think there's an instance of somebody throughout history who actually like came up with a few verses, and Muslims point to it as like, look, it doesn't even sound like the Quran. It's not the same thing. But who decides? Well, obviously Muslims would decide because they are the ones who are familiar with the Quran, especially the scholars who studied it. So they are the judges.
But wouldn't I'm just a question here? Wouldn't they be biased in believing that there's no one who could do it because their God says that there's no one who can do it?
Well, okay, Dawah mode right now. You could say that, like, people are biased, but on average, these biases should cancel out. There should be at least one impartial judge out there. So throughout history, all the people trying to replicate the Quran, there's not one judge who found that it has been replicated or copied.
Maybe it would be maybe I would be more receptive to it if one of the judges was not a Muslim and so didn't have a bias. What if it was an AI judge? Now that we're in the era of AI,
Well, AI is haram, but that's another discussion. Um,
another PDF once again.
no,
Okay.
I'm joking, by the way. I don't know if there's a ruling on AI yet, but I think AI should be haram. I think AI should be outlawed, but that's another discussion. Anyway, going back to it. So no, how can a non-Muslim be on the panel of judges if if someone believes that the Quran is holy, if someone thinks it is perfect, then they have to be Muslim.
Hmm. Well, okay. What standards? Like how like if someone is judging like a diving contest or whatever, they're judging them on all sorts of different things. I don't know anything about diving, like maybe how good your form is, how big your splash is at the end. Again, I don't know if
Or
that's
how
actually a thing.
small. I don't know if
Oh,
they
sorry, how small the splash is.
yeah.
What would be the things that they would be assessing this to determine, and like what is the criteria that would determine, oh, it is actually divine?
Well, I can give you some examples about how the structure of the Quran is unmatched, right? The way that the verses follow each other, the way that sometimes there are rhymes, sometimes there aren't. There's I don't remember the exact naming of it, but some kind of structure to it. All of that, all of these qualities are not present in these other books. What do you think about that?
I feel like you didn't really answer my question.
Well, there is no set of criteria to show you, like, yeah, my camera is toast. Um, there's no set of criteria to show you what is and isn't, like, in what is and isn't perfect, or like how you determine if a book is like the Quran. You just know when you hear it,
You just feel it, like it's an intuition.
Yeah. Let me see if I could try to fix my camera. So yeah, you're not really. Someone keeps spamming this chat that a faucet prophet is. Why
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
telling me this, bro?
yeah. I timed them out the last time, but I think they
Yeah,
created a new account. Hold on.
they keep coming back with bots. Like, are they able to understand that this is not a faucet prophets channel?
Yeah, wrong channel,
Like,
everyone. Who
I have very public beef with that guy. I don't agree with him on most things. Like, you're preaching to the choir. Anyway, yeah, my camera is not working right now. So let's go back to the
Okay.
to the script here. So this challenge, the fact that Muslims have never claimed, or they've never ruled that anything has been produced that is like the Quran, doesn't that make you believe in the Quran?
No, because I don't think it's really an impartial test. I'm not really sure how you would even determine if someone passed the test or not. It seems like a rigged contest.
So, but no one has succeeded in copying the Quran. You should be believing that Islam is the truth by now. Why are you not budging?
I don't know. Maybe it's Satan. I'm not sure. I can feel something pulling at me from inside. It might be Satan.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll read some Quran into your ears. Maybe that'll help. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Say it with me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge in Allah from the what was rajim, like the evil shaitan, the
I'm
ill-meaning
I'm
shaitan.
I'm more of an argument person. Give me more arguments.
Fine. How about this? This is a slam dunk. Okay, if you don't convert to
Slam dunk.
Islam right now,
Why
I'll
didn't you
convert to
say it
atheism.
first? Why are you saving it for the
I'm just
seventh
hyping
thing?
it up.
Okay,
Okay, I'm
okay,
telling
okay.
you what to expect. This one, you can't come back from this. Number 7, the Quran changes people. The words in the Quran have a great effect of changing people's lives.
Oh, damn. Okay, I'm a believer. There, I'm gonna do my shahada now. That's it.
Bro, that's the best argument I've ever heard of. It has an effect on people.
Wait. I once heard of this book called The Secret,
Mhm.
and I heard that it changes a lot of people's lives. Is that also from your God?
Now you're just manifesting counter arguments that don't need to exist.
The Bible has a great effect of changing people's lives.
Yes, and it actually originally came from Allah. Thank you for proving my point.
but I thought it was like corrupted or changed, or wait, maybe you didn't say that. But I've
Yeah,
heard
yeah,
other
it
Muslims
was,
saying that.
but that's people's fault. That's not Allah's fault.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm missing the dramatic nasheed noise in the background. Believe it or not, I could get copyright strike for that. So let me not put some nasheed in the background. But I guess the point of this argument is that the effect it has on people should be proof. So, placebo, I guess, should be proof of nothing.
No.
Yeah, this is a terrible. Like, they're all bad arguments, but this one is like, there's no room to even argue it.
Harry Potter changed people's lives. You could argue Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, fair. They're not memorized by so many people though.
I don't know about that actually.
Did you memorize it?
The Quran or Harry Potter?
Not me, not you, not Hermione, you. Okay, so how about this? How about this? This is undeniable. All right, it has a unique style and cannot be copied.
Well, I mean, I don't know that because my name's John. I'm not an Arabic speaker. How do you know that?
Well, it is proof already that no one has copied the Quran or produced something like it. So that is proof that it is unique, don't you think?
Um, I mean, I think I couldn't really say unless at this point that I'm an Arabic speaker,
Okay, let's assume you
and
are
and
an
also a
Arabic speaker.
classical Arabic speaker, classical Arabic from the sixth,
Okay,
seventh century
let's
AD.
say your name is George and you're Lebanese and you're actually educated in classical Arabic. You have a
Oh
PhD in
wow.
Arabic literature. Okay. Um, do you think that the Quran having a unique style is proof that it is from God?
Not necessarily. I'd have to go into like what makes it unique, and here's the most important part: how that uniqueness eliminates the possibility that it was made by a human.
I have to break character for a second. This argument is so bad because it's like how do I phrase this? Like they're grasping at straws here. They're saying nothing else looks like this, therefore it must be from God. So you're telling me this almost like paranoid levels of reading into stuff. Like imagine if my landlord wants to increase the rent, for example.
Okay.
They could show up in person and say, "Hey, I'm the new landlord. I bought it from the previous owner. Here's the paperwork to prove it, and also here's the paperwork to show that I can increase the rent. Now you owe me more." I might not like that, but I can
Mhm.
accept that. But what if I started reading into the positioning of the mat that is outside my door to try to figure out, oh, it must be a new landlord who's implying that like he doesn't like how much rent I'm paying. Like what? Well, I have to go looking for signs. I have to go looking for instead of actual proof. So God, instead of showing himself to us, imagine God being like Alim and saying, but look at how the sentence is written though. Like how could it be anything but God? Dude, just show up. All you got to do is show up. Why do we have to play almost schizophrenic games with words just to deduce that this one book is special and divine?
Yeah, that's the thing that when I first really started questioning and then eventually left, that really swayed me. That if God wanted to, He could just have me know that He is real, and that my faith is in something that's true, like that, right away, because He's
Yeah.
all powerful. But He didn't, and I couldn't think of a good reason why beyond, Allah knows best. He's judging us, He's testing us. He wants us to freely believe in him or not, which all just sounded hollow to me. And that's what it comes
Yeah.
down to. Why is all of this needed? And that's what I'm asking you right now as John or George or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah. And I think the premise is that you have to have faith. It can't be on evidence or rational arguments. But at the same time, they pretend like there are rational arguments and evidence. Which is it? Like it's not like as soon as you run out of arguments, you say it's faith. But when you have something that resembles an argument, you say, well, we can run with the best of them philosophers and we can point out how we can prove that there is a God. Choose a lane. You can't have it both ways. But anyway, yeah, supposedly the unique style of the Quran. That didn't convince you? Okay, how about this? Check this out. It is the largest and fastest growing religion. It has produced the largest religion, 1.6 billion followers, including you and me, by the way, including Aladdin and Alim. We are counted in those 1.6 billion followers because they don't acknowledge apostasy. And it has produced the fastest growing religion. Does that convince you that Islam is the truth?
Isn't Christianity a bigger religion by like just like
Yeah,
numbers of
but it's
followers?
sinking right now. Like it's not growing as fast as Islam.
But you just said it was the largest when Christianity is the largest.
It's the largest growing. It's not the largest.
I'm I literally I literally just heard you say something different. But okay. Okay, so you meant the largest growing.
It has produced their largest religion. Yeah, a typo. Don't worry about it. But also a large. I mean, they could argue, well, the Catholicism and these are all sects, and they're not actually like the same Christianity, so you can't count them all as the same.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Whatever.
All right. All right.
Actually,
Sure,
there are
sure.
more Christians than there are Muslims, but Christianity is
For
growing.
now, for
Yeah,
now.
for
Okay,
now.
I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. Does that convince you?
I've heard of this fallacy called appeal to popularity. I think where just because something is popular or believed by most people doesn't automatically mean that it's true. What do you think of that, Alim?
Um, I think that, look, let me spin this. Um, if
Wait, you're
God,
telling me you're spinning it?
yeah, I'm not very good
Okay,
at this. Like I said, this
okay.
is my first rodeo. Um, God is real, right? And God is capable. So it follows that his religion would be the fastest growing. Otherwise, God has failed at sending his message.
I mean, there's still billions of people who don't believe, so I don't know.
Well, that's their
You tell
fault
me.
and people's fault. That's not God's fault. He has proven himself by the fact that Islam is the fastest growing religion.
But I mean, like, just because there's like things that a lot of people believe in doesn't mean that that they should be believed or that they're true.
But aside from that, the Quran and the unique style and the fact that it changes people and it's the fastest religion, all of these together make one super
I,
argument.
I know, like, you've bombarded me with so many things. I can't even keep track of why they weren't very convincing or not. So I don't know. I just feel confused right now. I feel confused, Ali. And I don't know what to think at this point.
And also, this brings into question, okay, say we go back 1,000 years. Um, Maybe Christianity was then also still the fastest growing and the most popular religion.
Yeah.
Would it have been true then? And Islam wasn't true because it wasn't the fastest growing religion at that point in time?
Ooh. I should have said that.
Yeah. If he wanted to, he would. If God wanted to prove himself, he would. Um, there's just so much. Again, like it's what's it called, the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Like they see a bullet that landed somewhere, and they draw lines around it, and they say that is proof. So that's proof that we hit the spot exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they look for what is unique in Islam right now. Fastest growing. That is criteria, but that's not criteria for anything being true or not. People adopted capitalism at a faster growing pace. Most people are capitalists whether they like it or not, or participate in a capitalist society. Does that mean that capitalism is true or the best way to live? We can argue about
We
that.
can argue about that, definitely. Uh, it's
But it
definitely not
doesn't,
a given.
yeah, it doesn't mean that just because it is popular. Viruses, for example, if our immune systems can't handle it and it becomes a plague, and they continue to expand, does that mean that these viruses are somehow divinely powered or true, or that then we should do nothing about that expansion, or that there's some virtue in the amount of people getting sick? No, like something being infectious or sticky, or an idea being forced on people or being so good at dissipating doesn't mean that it is true. But again, that's not my role to say that.
But yeah, yeah, just playing devil's advocate. Okay.
Okay, so now I ask you, would you agree that the Quran is indeed a miracle?
All right, let's say, okay, yes, it does seem quite amazing.
Okay, if you accept that the Quran is a miracle, then you are accepting that Muhammad was the true prophet of Almighty God. Would you agree with that?
Yes, he probably was a prophet. I like that. He probably was. Okay.
He probably was. Yeah, what a shahada.
Oh
Um,
no.
are you sure he was a prophet?
Well, I don't really know much about him. He's the guy who married the 6-year-old girl, right?
It was a different time. He only went to Epstein's Island like once, okay, and it was to spread Islam there. Um, yeah, no, that's out of context. Let's forget
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
He also did so many things. He was nice to his neighbors. He gave to charity.
He was a good businessman.
Yeah, he was an excellent businessman. Exactly. His first wife was a businesswoman, so he was a feminist. Um,
Mm. He
you know,
was
for
nice to his wife that was a slave.
Yeah, and he was nice to all of his wives, except when they felt neglected and they felt like he was going to divorce them. He just let them give up their rights to stay with him. But he was a nice guy, I promise. Does that make you feel any certain way about him?
So this is what you've given me now, a brief outline of his life.
Yeah, he says, "Yeah, I can see now he was a prophet." That's your line.
Okay, yes, I can see now that he had to be a prophet. He was illiterate after all. How could he have done all that stuff?
True. By the way, yeah, on the illiterate point, most people at that time were illiterate. Even poets were illiterate. So
Mm.
I think part of the point is if he's illiterate, how could he read other religious texts or other poems or come up
Yeah,
with
yeah.
poetry,
I've heard
for
that
example?
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that's making it seem like everyone was a drooling,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, incapable of thinking or saying things just because they can't read a book, when oral tradition was more important than reading at the time. So, like him living 40 years, absorbing information from polytheists and Christians and Jews and all these travelers and so on, that's a good knowledge base of information. He doesn't have to be writing stuff down. And that also is reflected in how inaccurate a lot of the information that he relays is. It would be like a half truth or like, similar to a legend that someone told him, but not exactly. So, anyway, um, so if you accept that he is a prophet, you should say it in a certain way. By doing so, it's guaranteed that you'll be going to heaven. Not
What do
true,
you
by the way.
mean?
That's not true, by the way. Saying the Shahada or like believing that Muhammad is the prophet, it is not a guarantee to go to heaven. But yeah, what do you mean? By acknowledging the oneness of God and accepting the Prophet Muhammad as the prophet of Almighty God, you are promised the good news of heaven. That's very Christian coded.
I have always believed in one God. I mean, I did say that in the beginning. That's true.
Please just repeat after me. I bear witness that there is nothing worthy of worship except Almighty God, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger.
No.
Then we proceed to give more evidence for examples you could talk about. Economic system, political. What the? Okay.
Pardon me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm confused by that.
I know exactly what this means. But let's pause for a second. Notice how predatory this is. So let's say you approach a partner, right, or a woman that you want to make your partner, and you're like, "Hey, are you interested? Can I give you reasons why I'm a good partner?" And she's like, I'm not so sure. And he's like, just hear me out. And by the end of it, she's like, yeah, I guess you seem like a good guy, but I'm not sure. And he's like, okay, just say it after me. Just repeat it. Just say yes, please. I beg you, say yes.
You have to
Like,
close the sale. Always be
yeah,
closing. ABC method.
yes, exactly. And he just keeps repeating, like, you're uncertain. No. You got to say it with certainty. Let me take you to the next level. And this is all within the span of a conversation where he ambushed somebody on the street.
You did ambush me. Yeah.
Yeah, like first I started by telling you about how tsunamis suck and that's part of God's plan
I'm
somehow.
still waiting for you to explain to me the reason why he created us. I feel like that got lost.
Yeah, he never mentioned that. Well, that's not important, okay? What's important is that this is a miracle. This is amazing. And you need to say that Allah is the one God. But you said no. So let me
No.
give you an example of economic system. Islam is not just a religion, it is a way of life. It is an all encompassing system.
Ooh,
So,
it's like a package deal. So instead of
yes,
so instead of buying all these different things, like getting Amazon Prime and Netflix and whatever other things there are, Disney Plus,
like you don't have to
all I
worry
need is
about
Islam.
figuring out what to do or like what's right and wrong. You don't have to worry about how to have a society function. It's all
Ah.
in here. It's all in this book and everything said about this book and everything Muhammad said, right? Um, it's so yeah, it's an economic system. Like Islam has rules on zakah, on charity, on
On interest.
interest. Yeah, no interest, except actually Muslim banks do charge interest in a sort of a roundabout way. It has a political system too. You have a khalifa, you have like rulers and so on. Women are not allowed. No woman can ever lead people. There was a hadith about how Muhammad said, "لن يفلح قوم ولوا أمرهم ولوا أمرهم لامرأة." So a people would not succeed if they gave leadership or
Uh,
decision power to a woman.
well, I, John, as a misogynist, I'm totally on board for that. So
Why didn't we start there? I should have started with the misogyny.
this whole time we could have just been talking about our shared hatred of women.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah, and it has a legal system, Sharia. That means law. There's rulings on what to do in various situations, and if that situation has not been described in the Quran or the Hadith, that's okay. We have a bunch of smart-ass men who have done nothing but study Islam all their lives, and that's their source of income, and that's their whole life. They will give you a fatwa, an opinion on what you should do. So you need to clear it with them just to make sure that you're not doing something haram. So we have an all-encompassing system. Does that make you want to join Islam?
I'm definitely well. I think you're starting to have me now of the misogyny. So is Islam the thing also that cuts off thieves' hands if they steal something?
Yes, and that's why Saudi Arabia is the safest country in the
Oh,
world.
I always felt that we really need more deterrence to stop crime in society.
Exactly. It is a
Hmm.
deterrent. Yeah. And it works, right?
You just said so. Saudi Arabia is one of the safest,
Hmm.
most beautiful,
I mean,
except for journalists
if
and
you
and
ignore all
women
the
and
abuse
yeah.
and the human rights abuse and the low income, low paid, almost slave wages that they give
Okay,
to
aside from all those things. All right.
aside from
Okay,
all those
cool.
things, you don't have to be as worried about someone stealing your cell phone when you're walking down the street because we will chop their hands off.
It sounds
Um,
like a Jannah on earth.
you should move there. In fact, I should also move there, but
Yeah,
instead
what are you
I
doing
am
here?
well, I'm spreading the
What
message of
what are you
Islam.
doing in the country,
Inshallah,
the land of
someday.
the infidels?
Inshallah, someday I will return to Saudi Arabia and have a dream life in this dream utopia that I think exists. So I can go to Mecca every day. Um, anyway, so yeah, telling you that it is a holistic system. Does that make you want to join Islam
I'm
anymore?
a bit more intrigued now. But I need like a clincher. I need something to finish me off.
Well, there's a massage parlor over there, but I can help you with this part. I can show you the Quran. You see how he keeps asking, "Can I show you the Quran? Can I do this?" And then the answer, if it's no, is just going to be, try to force him to say yes. It's not okay. If no, then say, "Have a nice day. I hope you think about it, and I'll be here." No, it's like if no, then find a way to bring it back to yes. It's very pushy and predatory. So
You forgot this
essentially,
argument too from the commenter.
you get four wives.
Yeah.
Did I
Oh,
mention you
sweet.
get four wives? Here's the best part. You can get a woman with so little experience in life that she is barely even a woman.
Mhm,
Like she lived with her father at her father's house, maybe has an
mhm.
education, maybe doesn't, but essentially she'll just follow in your shadow wherever. You can order her for yourself, and that's halal.
That sounds very tempting. But just to clarify, I do have a sister. She doesn't get four husbands, right?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
phew. Okay. All right.
Which, by the way, we need to talk about that. She needs to also convert someday. Is she single?
She actually is. Well, she has a boyfriend, but he's
No,
he's
that's
not a
that's
Muslim.
haram. That's canceled. We gotta get her a good Muslim man.
Okay, but
You'll
you're
need the
showing me a
brothers in the
Quran.
masjid. Yeah.
I have. Oh, sorry. I have the Quran in my hands. What am I looking for right now?
I guess maybe say to them, why don't you choose a page in the Quran and I'll pray and ask God to guide us through your choice of that page in the Quran. If they agree, then you can show them the Quran. Usually, I found that the verse which is selected is very relevant to them and they're
Oh,
surprised.
okay. All right.
Okay,
Let me pick a random surah and ayah. Okay, 46:15.
what is that? Let's look it up.
Just pick something
4615.
randomly. All
Is
right.
this from your research on for your
This
next
is
video?
nope, nope. This is just a
Okay.
random surah and random ayah.
وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. We have commanded unto men kindness towards his parents. His mother, struggled to have him, and so on and so forth.
Wow, I've always had a great relationship with my parents. Maybe this is a sign that I should convert them to Islam as well.
There you go. This is great. I'm getting a great return on investment on bothering one person
Mhm.
to get multiple converts. Um, exactly. I was just about to say this. This is palm reading bullshit. This whole we'll find something that resonates with them, and therefore that they think I have a connection with the divine. That's like when a palm reader or a psychic starts to put out feelers as to like, is there somebody with a relative with a first letter of their name is M?
I'm seeing the name George. Is there a George
Yeah.
anywhere in the live
Anyway,
chat?
anybody know a George? Oh, your mother's friend's cat was called George. Yes, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like that's what this is.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I know there might be a Muslim who watches this and thinks, well, astaghfirullah, this is not how da'wah should be. Like you guys are being harsh because you are generalizing Islam based on this specific guy. But he's successful at what he does in a sense. Like I'm sure most of the people who say yes under pressure in these videos when he has a camera to their face and he's like jumping from one point to another, end up leaving because they never actually joined. But this is something that Muslims have no resistance to. They don't stop dawah men like this. So us criticizing this style of dawah is not some kind of marginal, crazy guy on the subway who's holding a sign telling you that the end of times are near. This is very common,
No,
and
there's like a
predatory.
whole industry of these Dawah men, Dawah boys, or sometimes as they're sometimes called when they're younger, and with hundreds of thousands of views, millions of subscribers, and
Yeah.
that's just on social media. Yeah.
The irony is the person who authored this, his name is Fazal Rahman. I'm assuming he's maybe Pakistani, Bangladeshi, something like that. I'm assuming he doesn't speak Arabic as a first language, but he might have a lot of confidence in the miraculous nature of the language of the Quran without even speaking it. So that's very common. You see, a lot of people who speak about the linguistic miracles of the Quran don't even speak Arabic. And yet, if someone who speaks Arabic says it's not miraculous, they'll say, "Well, you're just a hater. You don't have a PhD in classical Quraishi
Yeah.
Arabic."
Exactly. I like this comment from Nini. Do you have a guy named Muhammad in your family? Talking to anyone from the Muslim world, I have special powers. How did you know?
Yeah, yeah. There's like three of them. Correct. He doesn't speak Arabic. Abdulaziz says. Okay. Ilyas says, "Can you make a script available to refute the Dawah script or a PDF available?" No, because I'd rather it be a dynamic process like this. Like, think of this conversation as that. I don't know if I can make a
Mhm.
generalized yet concise point by point thing because it discounts completely what the other person is going to say.
Yeah.
Like most of this here, the other person doesn't even exist. They could say yes, no, and that's it. Not even then. Like they could just steamroll over them and continue talking. None of this PDF was actually engaging with the other person in any meaningful way. This is a scam.
Yeah, and again, the thing that I come to, and this is something that I think would actually, and here I'm trying to give the Dawa people some help. I think the thing that really would resonate with them is what immediately connects to them. They're like what are the universals? People's fear of death, fear of losing your loved ones, confusion about what to do in your life. And I don't see any of those things being addressed here. And I think it's like a completely wasted, missed opportunity to actually convert people to Islam, which might be a good thing. So maybe I shouldn't
I don't want
say
them to
anything
see
more.
it.
All
I
right.
don't want to see them addressed because they're not addressed necessarily. They're manipulated and used. Like when he was mentioning tsunamis, I'm sure he's not really actually giving the person a way to cope with, the loss of property or
No,
loved
it's
ones in a
it's literally
tsunami.
just like this crappy foot in the door that is
Yeah,
then not addressed again.
it's taking advantage of people's fears or people's need for an explanation because there are a lot of people who think, why are bad things happening to good people, or why are bad things happening to me, or why do bad things happen at all, and looking for answers to these existential questions. Why are we here? What's the point? And he can shoehorn in a bullshit answer and through this script convince you that he has some kind of clue as to what that is, when actually he doesn't. um, Abdulaziz says he has converted a lot of people. I would love to speak, if anyone knows somebody that any of these Dawah men converted, I would love to have a conversation with them because I'm fairly certain most of them are, either immediately or after a while, they realize that they were kind of lied to, they were manipulated into joining. And if they don't, then I feel sorry for them because their life trajectory changed severely because of meeting one guy in a lousy supermarket or outside,
Yeah.
on the street.
But most importantly, I forgot to ask you about your name. Is,
Yeah.
is there more to the script? Or are
The
we at the
last
end?
thing, we're at the end, but I guess I show you something and
Okay.
palm reader bullshit, and you're like, oh yeah, this applies to me. And I say, do you accept Muhammad as a messenger? Yes.
Yes.
Then you are a Muslim.
No.
No. Can I
What?
show you the Quran?
Okay.
It's
All
an
right.
infinite regress. We'll be stuck here forever. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. You just keep going in a loop till the person says yes. There is no exit. There is no like, okay, they say no, let them go. It's just keep going back to
You could talk
talking.
about economic system, political.
Yeah.
Again, why is like why are those the things that would appeal? I would talk about things like, uh, do you ever feel purposeless in your life? Well, Allah gives you your purpose by doing this and worshiping Him and doing good things, and then you get the reward of paradise. Where, have you ever lost a loved one? Yes, my mother died of cancer when I was 12 years old. Well, your mother didn't die for no reason. It was all part of Allah's plan, and you will be reunited with her in paradise. I think these kinds of things are way
Stop
more
giving them
effective.
tips, please. That you're helping them
What
being predatory. Don't do
it's
that.
so interesting because it kind of I mean, a lot of us have seen these kinds of arguments before, and I can just mention anecdotally that I've been approached on the street not just by Muslims but also by Christians, and they often start with this. Here's did you know of this miracle in our holy book? How do you explain that? And I don't think that's the best way to connect with people.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say this, and there is some truth to it, though. Most of the time, it works on vulnerable or perhaps gullible or easily pressured people or
Easily
people
pressured.
pleasers. Yeah, people
That's the key.
pleasers especially. Like people who don't like that pressure of being in a conversation they don't exactly consent to, even if they say yes, that they're not enthusiastically saying I want it to be here. It's just like I guess I don't want to embarrass this guy. I don't want to say no to him. He probably really believes in this
He
stuff.
seems
Oh,
nice.
yeah. He even asked me what my name is. Wow. And like sometimes even these little tricks
Yeah,
work on them.
yeah. I feel
Um,
seen.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's not a criticism. That's not to make you feel like you deserve to be duped into joining a cult or a high control group or religion if you have these traits. If anything, you need to be more on the lookout so that this doesn't happen to you. I hope that distinction is clear because sometimes
yeah,
people point in shame. Like they say, how could you be stupid enough to fall for this? Or if you fall for this, you deserve it, or something like that. I don't think so. I don't think we should be making fun of people who fall for these pitches. It's just to educate them and give them a heads up and for others to not fall for them.
yeah. And I would just add to that. I think me being John isn't really an accurate reflection of what a lot of people on the street being approached with this kind of stuff would say. But I think the thing to learn is to approach these kinds of things with some critical thinking and skepticism, and to try and look at it from the vantage point of, am I being scammed right now? And I know that a lot of people don't look at religion that way, but when someone is approaching you about a religion, it's easy to dismiss the, I don't know, the ones that seem like a wacky cult. But I think we need to have that same kind of mentality with these major religions, because at their core, there's very little evidence for them being actually true, and there's, I would argue, much more damage that they've created in society.
I disagree with the notion that there's very little evidence that it's true. There's no evidence that it's true. There's very little
Fair enough. Yeah.
arguments that come close to even be worth debating, is how I would word that. A lot of them are so easily dismissible if you have even given them any thought in an environment where you're not pressured and lied to, in a sense. Um, but if there was any of these arguments that are actually true, I would have. I would have believed. It's even one good argument that is, irrefutable is enough. So why give me 1,000 and like most of them suck?
Yeah. Kubarto makes an interesting point here. Thank you, by the way, Kubarto, for the great comments, the whole live stream. Maybe the scripts aren't meant to work in real life, but rather Dawah YouTube videos. And there's that one argument that maybe some of these people, and I think Ali Dawah was a really popular example of what I'm talking about here, where they're just doing it to create content
Mhm.
and then post videos and then give the people what they want. So their Muslim audience get to see Ali Dawah just owning, wrecking, destroying this Christian, this non-believer, this atheist, this
Or even in a more
kafir,
positive
whatever.
spin, bringing them to Islam, saving their souls in a sense. It could go either way. It could be
Yeah,
that,
it's win-win really, like because the what matters most is you're pushing out the content.
yeah. And I can see that. And they could even justify to themselves as like the content is actually helping people. It's showing
It,
people that their
it's
faith
spreading
is,
the message.
yeah, it
Yeah,
is. And it's reassuring Muslims that, hey, even that John, that white guy who knew nothing about Islam, can join Islam. So it must be true.
I would say John knew surprising amount about Islam actually. If you rewatch the conversation, I was impressed by John.
Yeah. Well, this not the most
He
representative.
was a misogynist though, so I do not condone
Um,
what his beliefs. Just to
all his
clarify.
rhetoric, just
No,
the Islam stuff or the skeptic stuff.
the skeptic stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. We can take a quick look. I don't know if we have enough time to delve into
Ooh,
another document, but
I have to leave in like 3 minutes, unfortunately.
okay. Well, maybe I'll continue. If people want me to continue, I'll continue another one. While Alim is gone afterwards. Is there anything you want to promote or add before you leave?
No, no. If you're watching me on Aladdin's channel and you aren't already a subscriber of my channel, I hope you can subscribe. And if you are watching on my channel, please do subscribe to Aladdin's channel.
But watch his
There,
videos first
yeah,
before you
watch all
watch them.
my yeah, watch all my videos first, starting from the really bad ones in the very beginning, and then all the way to the present. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones recorded on a cell phone. Did you have those?
No, no. Just I had wild COVID hair in the beginning days. Yeah, so if anyone wants to see me with wild long hair, please go ahead.
Well, there you go. Thank you for joining us today, Alim. Not the Dawah Alim, the real
The real
Alim. Please
Ali.
stand up. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next stream.
All right. Take
Take
care,
care.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Have fun.
Thank you. Okay, so what are we doing now? It's been a while. I forgot how it is to host. Fatima, thank you for becoming a member. And Late Night Keiju, thank you for the super chat. First of all, I apologize for not having posted a lot lately. As you can see, I moved locations, different studios, still a work in progress, and I was dealing with a few things offline, but I'm here now. And yeah, I would like to highlight some comments and then continue to the next guide. Abdulaziz says, this guy has been doing this for many years, and it would be fascinating to see follow ups on those who he converted to see if a few years down the line they're still Muslim. If you know any of them, I would love to converse with them. Okay, now bringing it back to where'd it go? There we go. I'll let you guys vote while I'm browsing here. Should I go through the one with the atheist, Dawah to an atheist, or dialogue with Christians? There's multiple of these. I also wanted to take a quick look right now as you're voting in the live chat at this Dawah guide. It's 44 pages, so I'm not going to go through it today. So it's a draft copy, by the way. They say sorry for the grammatical errors, so don't be critics about that part. There's a technique called the JMM technique. Wow, okay. Maybe I'll read this later. The key beliefs of Christianity. All right, so what have people voted for in the live chat? I'm seeing atheist. Okay, some Christian, but mostly atheist. Let's do that one then. Atheist dialogue. Inshallah, I will load. There we go. Dialogue with an atheist. Again, don't be too harsh on the grammatical errors. I don't think I usually am, so please let's focus on the content. Please note, dialogue with atheists is difficult. Yeah, I'll say. But they are rare outside of university. Conversation is not easy because they are usually well educated and often just being arrogant. Hold the phone. This is an admission. They are usually well educated. So you're telling me that you have better luck with the less educated people. Is that what I'm hearing here? They prefer less educated people? No. They're saying often are just being arrogant. So it's that less educated people are more humble, more educated people are more likely to be arrogant. There is some truth to, what was it, the Dunning-Kruger effect, that sometimes people, the more they learn, the more they think they know, and they think they're experts when they're not. But also some people, the more they learn, the more they realize there is more to learn, and they become more humble. So anyway, before even starting a dialogue with an atheist, the new Dawah man is trained to think of atheists as well-educated and arrogant, maybe almost rude. Right, it's rude for an atheist to push back on a Dawah man's rhetoric, but it's not rude to spew this nonsense and pressure them into saying yes when they're just out, during their day. Unfortunately, they seem to have some underlying bitterness or anger against people who believe in God. Jesus Christ, we haven't even started the document yet, and it's all accusations. Whatever their attitude, we need whatever their attitude is, we need to be humble, polite, and ignore their negative attitude. Okay? Well, I'm sorry, secular spirit. I have found a gold mine, and you are not around for it. You should have thought of that before having a life. Anyway, apologies if these dialogue sheets are too simple or too complicated. How can it be both? Please note that for most undergraduates and postgraduates, the information and language used here is really too simple. Perhaps for most people. Whether it is too simple or too complicated, please, could you adapt it to your own level of knowledge and understanding, as well as adapting it to your listener? I respect that. You need to meet people where they are. So, M is for Muslim. I don't want to do voices because I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but I also want to differentiate who's saying what. So, Muslim says, do you have any beliefs? Do you believe in God or anything? Atheist says, no, I don't think there is a God. The atheist may then give lots of reasons why there can't be a God. Sometimes it's worth asking them why they believe there is no God. What we need to do is concentrate on giving evidence that there is a God. Excuse me, can I prove to you that there is a creator? At university, you should probably say, do you mind if I give you some evidence for a creator? And you could tell me what you think. So, that's impossible or looks surprised. Like they have this fictional version of an atheist in their mind who is like, this can't be. You have evidence? That is news to me. Wow, I have never heard that before. Oh my God. It's almost like the negative attitude that atheists have towards religious preachers is because we're tired of their nonsense and their inaccurate representations of us. But okay, there are really 4 proofs or 4 pieces of evidence for the existence of a creator. One would suffice, I promise you. One good piece would suffice. But they have 4 nonsense ones. The first piece of evidence for a creator is the law of cause and effect, or causality, the cosmological argument. Here we go. Can we agree that everything that exists must do so either because it always existed or it had a beginning? I'm assuming yes. So it always existed would mean it goes back infinitely forever, and that's just not possible. Wait, is it not possible for God to exist since always, forever? I'm confused. Is it just a special pleading that the matter in the universe couldn't have existed always, but Allah, matter and matterless, has always existed? Yeah. Marshall says, this is exactly how my local mosque imam describes atheists. Okay, so if everything had a beginning, it must have either created itself or something caused it to come into being. This is causality. Again, the classic question is, what about God? Did God create itself or something caused it to come into being? By the way, I have said this clearly before, but I'll make it clear again. I am not an atheist who claims to know the beginning of the universe or existence, what that looked like or how that could have happened. Most people don't claim to know that, by the way. I'm an atheist in the sense that I think every description and every person saying they know exactly how that happened, there's no evidence of that at all. So I have no reason, no evidence, no reason, no inclination even. Inclination would mean pressure or societal fitting in, maybe, like feeling like I want to also belong to a people who believe in God. I don't believe that we can say anything about the existence of the beginning of the universe or the existence of God. That's what I'm saying. New members, by the way, thank you for becoming a member. I hope to see you on the Discord server. Anyway, so they always carve these exceptions for God. So we can make claims about God, the unknowable, and we can infer that so clearly he's there, but also at the same time we can't know anything about him. Everything else needed a creator and a beginning, but God didn't. But if you were to suggest that the universe has always existed, and maybe it's in a state of flux where it expands, and then eventually with time it stops expanding and it decelerates the expansion, and then starts to collapse again on itself, and then another Big Bang. Maybe we're stuck in just one of these cycles. Maybe it's an endless cycle. I don't know that. So I'm not saying there is no God. There was never, ever any God. I know exactly how the universe started, how time began. I'm not saying any of that. But to claim that you know the opposite is arrogant. So anyway, They're saying that their God has always existed, but you can't say that about the universe. So if it created itself, it would mean it would have to exist and not exist at the same time, which was impossible. Same would go for God. Something caused it. This means that there must be a cause for anything to come into being, blah, 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 blah. This whole argument is usually to essentially say there must be, there is necessary, it's necessary for a cause to exist, and that cause is God. So I always want to skip to the part where they're describing the specifics of that God. But for the sake of the argument, let's go through this document. Okay, yes, who made the creator? That's the question that all of you are asking. So if God is eternal, why can't the universe be eternal? If you're asking the question, then you're thinking about something called infinite regress. No, I'm not. You're the one who created the infinite regress by saying that everything needs a creator, which means the creator was made by another creator who then needs another creator, and so on. This cannot happen, as there must be an ultimate cause for everything that is uncreated. Otherwise, you would go on forever. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, because what is the cause of your God? If you're just going to say that the sequence, the infinite regress stops with my God, then why doesn't the infinite regress stop with the universe? Anyway, the problem is that you can't make an academic point on an emotional discussion. I agree. And it jumped the gun, he says, at B. The cosmological argument concludes that the universe has a cause, and it jumped from there to the creator. That's the part that frustrates me. That they jump from that, a creator, to specifically, I know exactly what that is. Anyway, I don't know. Probably finite. It can't go on forever. What was the question? Sorry, can I ask you another question? Again, notice that this question is just fake politeness. It's the whole can I ask you for permission for something that I need to do for the case of this conversation, for the sake of this conversation? So if I say no, they'll just try to pressure me into asking that question anyway. Do you think that the universe is finite or infinite? Does it go on forever? I don't know. Probably finite. It can't go on forever. I wouldn't give that answer. I say, I don't know. And I stop there. And you don't either. Hey, buddy, your God, supposedly, God said that he holds up the sky with pillars. Clearly, he had no understanding of what the universe is, or that there are layers to it. And then now we're kind of beyond those layers. So you're in no position to speak about the infiniteness or finiteness of the universe. So he says, yes, it is finite. Most scientists agree that the universe is finite and started with an initial explosion. I don't think that's accurate. From what I understand about the Big Bang, it's not that the universe started, it's that that's as far back as our models can predict. There might have been time before then, like I was explaining, like a cyclical model. There was a universe that expanded and then collapsed, and then this is the expansion that we're witnessing and were created by. Or there might be something else. Anyway, and it's still expanding. This is the Big Bang Theory. Was it just matter that came into being, or even the laws of the universe? I don't know. And you don't either. So much of these questions are essentially him asking you unanswerable questions only to claim to have the answer, not actually engaging in dialogue or trying to point out how he knows that answer. Because how he knows is God says so, or the Quran says so, or the Hadith says so. I don't know. That's an honest answer. Scientists agree that it wasn't just matter, but it was even the laws of the universe, including time itself, that came into being. Therefore, the laws of the universe are within the finite universe, where space and time are linked together. If the creator is not within this universe, he is not restricted by space and time. Therefore, he does not have a beginning. Why is it he? Does the creator have a penis? How big is the creator's penis? Is it finite or is it infinite? Brings up a lot of questions. He does not have a beginning and therefore does not need a creator. A scientist would argue that anything outside of this universe, if it exists, is outside the space-time continuum. So he continues. What I have said so far doesn't prove a creator, but using the scientific argument gives rise to the possibility of a creator. I don't think this is actually the scientific method at all, by the way. I don't know if he tries to say the scientific method. Is there such a thing as scientific argument? I don't know. Please correct me. I've never really heard of that being a thing, but I am not the most educated person. There are things I don't know. But using the scientific argument, probably not a thing, gives rise to the possibility of a creator. Are we talking about possibilities or are we talking about certainties here? Are you proving or are you saying it's plausible that there's a creator? Because I can agree, and let's make this very clear. Most atheists can agree. Is it plausible that there is a creator? Sure, it's plausible. Could it be? Sure, it could be. Are we talking about possible or the only possibility? Self evident almost. So self evident that if you don't arrive at that conclusion, you deserve to burn forever. That's not what he's saying here. The second piece of evidence for a creator. Wait a second. How is this a first piece of evidence for a creator if it's not evidence of a creator? He just said it doesn't prove a creator. It doesn't prove a creator, but what was it? There are 4 proofs. I'm confused. Are there 4 proofs or are there 4 pieces or a 4 part argument that becomes one proof? If you want to make that first claim, then you just failed because you say it doesn't prove a creator. You admit this is not proof. T-Rex says, are minarets overcompensation for the creator? You tell me. I cannot speak on behalf of the creator, but they can. The second piece of evidence for a creator, the design and fine-tuning of the universe. Again, the fine-tuning argument. Like if you found a watch in the desert, you wouldn't assume that the matter organized itself, that it must have had a creator, and so on and so forth. The second piece of evidence for the existence of the creator is the complexity and the fine-tuning of the design of the universe. This shows intelligence in the design. This intelligence would suggest an intelligent designer. Okay, let's think about the intelligence of God. God created us with foreskins that he then commanded us to cut off babies. And now it might not seem that big of a deal. In some places it's an expensive, one more item on the bill at the hospital. In some places it's free. In some places they do that in a person's living room. But back in the day, there was no such thing as anesthesia. There's no such thing as antibiotics, no clean room. People would get infections and it would either hurt them in irreversible ways or just cause them unnecessary pain, or they just die because of it. Is that not imperfect? You're telling me God created the universe, this finite universe, to keep expanding and the Big Bang and all that stuff. And, time is nothing to Allah, but from this universe perspective, he just sat there for billions of years. Oh, there's life. Finally, single cell life. Oh, there we go. It's it's more complex. Now it left the ocean, and so on and so on and so forth. Oh, now we have something that's kind of apish. Well, now it's turning into a humanoid creature. It's developing language, but it's still not. It's not Adam and Eve yet. Okay, now it's Adam and Eve after all this time, and it still has faults in its design. The appendix. My appendix at some point burst, and I was in so much pain. If I was, as they say, a Victorian child, that was it. I would have died. That would have been the end for me. But thankfully, I was able to get to a hospital in time and got it removed, and I'm fine. But just why? Why do we have appendices or appendices that burst? Why do we have a tailbone? We don't have tails anymore. Why are our backs so fragile in some way? Well, because of the process of evolution is not actually intelligent design. Unless God intelligently put things that will hurt us, including the command to chop off foreskin, as somebody pointed out, that is still sometimes, dangerous. Is that intelligent design? Anyway, let's get back to this nonsense claim. The key words are fine-tuning. This means a universe that is finely and accurately balanced. The fine-tuning of the universe would have to be either due to physical necessity, chance, design. By the way, pause for a second. If the universe is fine-tuned, why do we have freak weather accidents? Weather patterns or incidents? What do you want to call them? Hurricanes, for example, tsunamis, like he was using in a previous document to sway people. Why are tsunamis a thing? Is God not capable of creating an Earth where it's room temperature everywhere all the time, and somehow that is a sufficient environment for plants and animals to thrive with no with no incidents like volcanoes erupting, with no things that kill off people who are innocent for no good reason, is God incapable of fine tuning to such an extent that that doesn't need to exist? So there is more tuning to be done. If we're talking about fine tuning, God could have tuned it even better. Anyway, so if we're talking about the physical necessity, it is not due to physical necessity because the universe could be lots of other ways and it would still be a universe, but not as we see it today. This is kind of hard to wrap your head around, but think about this. If the conditions for life did not exist on Earth, this planet would be like every other planet that has no life on it. So it's necessary for life to exist, for the universe to have these, or for the Earth, sorry, to have these qualities. So if the Earth didn't have these qualities, we would not exist to then witness it and say, oh, it was fine-tuned for us. It's like if you walk outside and you see a puddle in the dirt and it just rained, so the puddle is full of water. It looks like this puddle was created in the perfect shape to fit exactly this amount of water. But what actually happened is there was a recession in the ground. Water filled it, other water evaporated around it, and there's still water in that puddle that looks like this puddle was created specifically for that amount of water. So you see how it's kind of backwards? If the tuning wasn't fine enough, or if the conditions weren't what life needed to then evolve or to start existing, which I don't know how life began. I don't think scientists know definitively how things went from inorganic to organic. If the conditions weren't there, we wouldn't be here to then analyze them. You see what I mean? So there is a degree of necessity here. Chance, the probability that the universe being like it is by chance is so small that you could count it as almost impossible. Tell me you don't understand probabilities. This is exactly it. The chances of you winning the lottery is so small, right? It's so small. Does that mean that nobody wins the lottery? I think that demolishes that argument right away. So when they say it's so unlikely that it couldn't be, that's a bad argument. Winning the lottery is so unlikely. Somebody wins. I'm not saying go spend all your money on lottery tickets. Do not do that. You're probably guaranteed to lose. It doesn't mean that winning the lottery is physically impossible. So again, to come back to the previous example, if the conditions didn't fit, which is very likely, we would look like one of the many other planets and asteroids and whatnot with no life on them. And that is exactly what happens. If we look around us, the universe is filled with empty space and lifeless planets and stars and all that stuff. So the chances are low, clearly. You see what I mean? Time to gamble now, Qwerty said in the comment. Okay, so, and I'll explain why later. Please don't. I do mind because you suck at this deduction method. Okay, number 3 is design. This is the only real possibility left. Not really, because you completely misrepresented this. Okay, so all of this is like quoting science that I don't know if he fully understands, but are we going to get to the point where they're talking about Islam? Oh, there is something about the Quran here. Okay, let's kind of speed through this. Can I show you one example of the incredible fine-tuning of the universe? These "can I do this" questions are empty because yes, you want to, and you essentially are going to force the conversation there. So let's not pretend that you're asking me. Low entropy universe. Our universe is a low entropy universe. It's the degree of randomness of particles. Therefore, entropy is a measure of how the particles are spread out. The question is, what was the chance of our universe being spread out and to be a low entropy as much as it is? I don't know any of this, to be honest. So let's go along. Doesn't mean that he knows what he's talking about, but let's go along. Roger Penrose. Oh, now we're quoting professors. Now we're quoting science because now science agrees with Islam, supposedly. Professor of mathematics at Oxford University, name dropping, they love that name dropping, has calculated that the probability of this low entropy universe by chance is 10 to the power of 10 to the power blah, blah, blah. So, and then they got to qualify why they're name dropping him. He was awarded the Wolf Prize with Stephen Hawking. Did Stephen Hawking join Islam? right? Like he's so smart that it's important for us to care or validate the opinions or the findings of scientists who are given his the award, right? This scientist, Roger Penrose, did he join Islam? So you're telling me the smartest people in the world, or some of the smartest people that you're quoting to make your point, still did not think that point led to Islam being the truth. So how is this supposed to sway me in any way? By the way, if both of these people converted to Islam, it doesn't mean shit. But the fact that he's quoting all these kuffar only to say they were so smart that they made a point that I'm going to adapt to make my point, but they weren't smart enough to join Islam, or they're too arrogant to join Islam. Come on. Anyway, third piece of evidence. Oh, I forgot. We're on number 2. There were some very good upright human beings who came up with an identical message and claimed at some stage of their lives that Almighty God communicated with them in some ways. For giving this message, they were persecuted and sometimes killed. They gained no material or worldly benefit from giving the message. Their followers were usually persecuted and sometimes killed and gained no worldly advantages from following this. Why did they do this? There are 3 possibilities. They were either dishonest but altruistic, deluded or had some other psychological problem, or honest and therefore true prophets of the Almighty. This is such bullshit. So, say a doomsday cult, right, which do exist. You could argue that religions, many of them are doomsday cults, but the kind of cult that says, we predict that the end of the world's coming soon, and you gotta join our cult, and you gotta do these things so that the spaceship takes you away, or that God saves you, or whatever version of it is. And some of them unfortunately end up either willingly or unwillingly dying in that process. Sometimes they take something altogether and they all die, and sometimes other members of that cult force them to take a poison and they die. What are the possibilities? Why did people do this? There are 3 possibilities according to this guy. Either they're dishonest but altruistic. I don't think that's the case. Deluded or had some other psychological problem. Not all of them had psychological problems, but I guess we could say that they're deluded as in they thought they knew the truth, or they thought they had an accurate sort of view of the world, but it was so far from the truth. Or they were honest and therefore true prophets of God. How do you know the difference between 2 and 3? Like what does that, how does that work? Like how come the existence of people who claimed to be messengers proves that there is a creator? It doesn't prove anything. It could actually be that they're mistaken. But again, he seems to sort of argue against that here. Being altruistic means that they were trying to help society, but they were lying. Their characters clearly showed that they would never lie, never ever lie. How gullible do you need to be as a person, really, to believe in the concept of, oh, here's a categorically honest person that was reported through myths and legends and tales to be an honest person, therefore they would have never told a lie, or they couldn't be wrong about anything ever, including their batshit crazy claims about, speaking to the divine and having visions and all that. How gullible do you have to be to think that there is such a thing as a person who has never told a lie or was never wrong? I mean, is that really their standard of evidence? There are stories about honest people, therefore I believe that there were honest people. That's a good point. Abraham Lincoln probably lied a lot. We still call him honest Abe. Oh my God, this is frustrating. This is so frustrating to go through, but I'm doing it to show you, the pitfalls of these arguments. So what if they're deluded or had some psychological problems? By the way, these 2 are not mutually exclusive, and also one doesn't necessarily mean the other. Someone could have, for example, schizophrenia, but also someone could be deluded about the state of the world or their political affiliations being, or the political party, for example, being a force of good in the world, but they don't actually have a psychological problem like schizophrenia or mental health issue. So it's not one and the same as if to put them in the same point. Anyway, their characters clearly show that they had no psychological problems. What do you mean, bro? Before the invention of psychology as a study, as a field of study, before documentation, you're telling me that stories about honest men, usually men, not women, not usually, always men in the case of Islam, the stories about honest men prove that they didn't have a psychological problem? Were you there? Even if they were here today, are you qualified to diagnose someone? How do you have the confidence to say, I heard this story once that there's an honest guy and I know for a fact he had no psychological problems? Like the gullibility of a person to believe this. And if that was you at some point, that's okay. We were all gullible at some point. But if you nurture critical thinking skills, or if your family members and your educators when you were younger nurtured that in you, you grow up to be less gullible. But when they emphasize the opposite, you grow up to be gullible, at least in certain areas. And then how do I know, like if I'm going to be that gullible, let's say I will take this standard of evidence. How am I not to fall for another religion or another cult or whatever that's pitching me the same pitch about their stories about honest people who totally spoke to God, I promise? Yeah. Like Hiha says, prophets today tend to be in psychiatric wards. How do we know if older prophets wouldn't be the same? To flip this on its head, if God sent a prophet today and we mistakenly put them in a psychiatric ward, how would we know? There isn't a difference. Unless they can demonstrably do miracles somehow, which even then, again, I've said this a lot of times before, miracles don't necessarily mean, therefore I could say whatever. Because you can go to an uncontacted tribe and fly on a jetpack, that's a miracle to them, and then make a claim about the universe, and you could be wrong. So miracles just mean I don't understand how this happened. But even that, all these miracle claims, we don't actually document them or witness them. They're usually tales and people and alleged witnesses, but it's never something repeatable, never something that we can actually see. Why is that? Why is God playing this game of hide and seek? Anyway, their characters show that this was the only possibility. I have a bridge to sell you. Okay, so he talks about prophets, blah, blah, blah. Moses parted the Red Sea with God's power, and the children of Israel escaped from the Pharaoh. If I were to tell you a story about a legend or a god or a prophet or some kind of guru or whatever who parted a river or levitated in front of all of his followers, you would be rightfully skeptical. Especially if you're a Muslim, you'd say, no, I don't believe that. But wait, if it's written in a book, and if that book is Abrahamic, in that case. Anyway, that was apparently piece number 3. Is anyone convinced so far? Like, has anyone felt swayed to believe in this? Number 4, the miracle of the Quran, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I've made a whole video about this, so let's skip that for now. Can you agree now that the Quran is a powerful book? Okay, notice how this is worded. A powerful book. You mean that it's an influential book? Or that if somebody believes in it, it can have a lot of effect on their lives? Hey, do you think Mein Kampf was a powerful book? Hey, just to make it extra clear, I haven't read that book. I'm not saying go read it. Is it a powerful book? By some metrics, you could say yes. It influenced a lot of people and continues to, unfortunately, influence a lot of people. It means jack. Nothing. So the fictional atheist says, yes, it's affected a lot of people. That's the measure, I suppose. So is it a book beyond human ability to produce? No, I'm sure we could do it. Sorry, but we would need to produce a book with blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you make up criteria that you want me to produce a book like. And then if I were to produce a book, you'd say, well, no, it doesn't meet those criteria, not the way that I like. Also, who gives a crap to sit down and fulfill your challenge because you think the world revolves around you and your religion? It's like T-Rex says, if this was available before I apostatized, I'm sure this wouldn't really actually keep anybody in Islam. If I were to, they assume here the challenge is universally heard and universally given a crap about, as if everybody would pause and be like, wait, hold up. I need to attempt to write a book that fulfills this criteria. Otherwise, I have no choice but to believe that this guy and this book is actually the truth. That's not how anything works. If I approached you and I said, Bitcoin and the blockchain and all that kind of stuff is the way to the future. It's the only way to bank going forward. It's the best way to bank. You could either say, I know nothing about it, or I disagree, or I agree. But you say, no, I don't think so. And I retort with, like a Dawah person, well, then I challenge you to create a money tracking, money accounting, whatever you want to call it, a system that is better than the blockchain. I challenge you with encryption and all that. I challenge you. And you say, I don't want to do it. I say, aha, therefore by default, I win. That's not how that works. If I don't want to participate in your challenge, that doesn't mean you win by default. It means you think the world revolves around you. The world does not revolve around you. But the assumption, and I used to think that as a Muslim, like I'll give you an example. I would watch a movie, for example, and I'd see people who are not Muslims. And I would think, and I would even ask people in my family, why aren't they like converting to Islam? Don't they know the truth about Islam? Or like people who interact with other Muslims or even Westerners who, move to Saudi Arabia for work. And I say, well, they're here. They see the truth. They interact with Muslims every day. Why don't they convert to Islam? And obviously the reasons become, well, because they're dishonest, they're lazy, they're arrogant, blah, blah, blah. I didn't think at the time that Islam and Mecca are not the center of the universe. People don't have to drop what they're doing and participate in your challenge. Otherwise, what you're saying is true. Thank you, Kobarto, for the super chat. And they say, mashallah, what an enlightening stream. Let's continue to be enlightened by, I guess, how are we getting from all that, all these arguments to Islam, the Quran. So do you now agree that the Quran must be from a supernatural source, not from humans? Possibly. I think we covered these again, either earlier in the video or in other videos, but just to reiterate, a linguistic challenge, linguistic miracle. This guy doesn't even speak Arabic, I believe, but even if he did, I speak Arabic and I could tell him it's not a linguistic miracle. And he'd say, well, agree to disagree, or like, no, you're wrong. So anyway, let's say I say possibly. Yeah, possibly this book is supernatural. Raysam says, this reads like a Dawah man's fantasy. Yeah, like when you're, in the shower or like in bed and you're like, and then I said this, and then he said that, and yeah, everybody clapped. So let's say I'm open to the possibility that the Quran is supernatural. Are you prepared? Oh yeah, the book where it says, to deal with marital issues, you can beat your wife. That is supernatural. No one could have figured that out. And that is actually the way that you should proceed forward according to Allah. Are you prepared to ask the Creator for guidance because the Quran tells us blah, 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 that the belief depends on guidance and not only knowledge? In other words, there's a degree of self-delusion. Like this whole like talking to the sky and thinking, is God guiding me? Is he not guiding me? And then tricking yourself into thinking, well, I must be being communicated with right now. Because you can't arrive at Islam with just knowledge. Because you can't get there. Anyway, can I show you the best way of asking? Looks surprised. The best way is to place your head on the ground as the prophets Abraham, Moses, and Jesus did in the Bible, as Muhammad did. There's no harm in asking God. It's a win-win situation. If you ask and he doesn't exist, there is no loss. However, if he does exist, then you really gained a great deal. Let's focus on that for a second. This whole like posing it as like, oh, you lose nothing. Like even if you follow Islam and it turns out to not be true, you lose nothing. That's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. I say even participating in this exercise of, let me ask God or let me get on my knees or prostrate or whatever, that's just participating in that. You're opening yourself up to a degree of like self-delusion. Because if you're the kind of person who reads too much into signs and they think like, things are signs or coincidences are signs or just looking for clues in things, then the next day after you prostrated, you'll, something good will happen to you, or even the next week, or something good eventually happens to everybody. And you'll think, is it because I prostrated and asked Allah for help? Is it because I am considering converting to Islam? If you have a good thing happen to you, and so on. So don't even give that possibility. It's not a win-win. It's not either you do it and nothing happens or you do it and something happens. You do it, you're participating in this exercise that's tricking you. And yes, if you join Islam as how do I pronounce your name? Moimi says, as a woman, I lose a lot. Even as a man, you lose a lot. But yeah, women do have it harder in Islam. T-Rex Thank you for the super chat. You really need to stop sending me super chats. Just T-Rex, though. Everyone else can still send me super chats. T-Rex says, no, you can't have Pascal's wager. We have Pascal's wager at home. Exactly. That's what that is. Is prostration istikhara? No, it's sujud. It's like getting, bowing and getting on your head and knees and so on. Anyway, so if you're prepared to ask, I'll give you some information. Is that okay with you? Blah, blah, blah. You offer them some literature. But if they are still being arrogant, then you can go on to the rest of this. The arrogance of this pitch is astounding. If you don't fall for my bullshit, you must be arrogant. Really, like there is no such thing, again, in this paradigm suggested by Islam. Again, this is not just the this Dawah man problem, and not every Muslim person thinks this way, but this paradigm of Islam, it heavily, not even heavily implies, it's almost explicitly said, you are either a good person or a bad person. If you don't believe, you're a bad person. You're an arrogant person. If there's something causing you to not believe, there is no such thing as unknowable. When it comes to the existence of God, it is knowable and it is true, and it's specifically this religion. And there is no such thing as a difference of opinion. The fact that philosophers disagree on things, that doesn't play into Allah's model of justice and torture and all that at all. There is no room for that. You're either arrogant and you deserve to burn, or you fall for my pitch. So if you haven't said yes to this guy pressuring you so far, it's because you're an arrogant, overly educated, stupid atheist. That's why. T-Rex says, don't tell me what to do. I think reverse psychology would work on some people like T-Rex, where you say, well, don't join Islam. And they're like, well, now I'm going to join Islam. The atheist says, no, I'm not really prepared to ask, or no, I don't want to get on the floor, and no, I don't want to say your magic words. He says, please don't be offended, but it really sounds as if you are quite arrogant. Oh my God. Are you an arrogant type of person? And the atheist says, yes, I suppose I am quite arrogant. Oh my God. Did Dawah men read this to themselves to feel better about themselves? And then everybody clapped, and then I went home to my wife and she kissed me and she said, may Allah provide you a house in Jannah with, 25 women in there. Like, is this his fantasy? Or the atheist says, yeah, I am quite arrogant because I didn't fall for your pitch. Are you arrogant if somebody approaches you from a Jehovah's Witness church and says, here's my pamphlet, here's why God exists and all that, and you say, no, thank you, but no thank you? Does that make you arrogant? Isn't you claiming to know things about the creator of the universe? You know more than people who dedicated their lives to studying scientific methods and how to arrive at conclusions with evidence, rather than because this guy with a beard told me so. You don't think you're arrogant for knowing more or thinking you know more than all these people? The call is coming from inside the house. So in this fantasy, not only does he tell, the reader, the Dawah man in training, that the atheists are arrogant, not only does he tell the atheist in this conversation that they're arrogant, but the atheist himself says, or herself, says, yeah, I guess you're right. I suppose I am arrogant. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and so on. Yeah, I don't really know what to say to that. Yeah, exactly. Arya says, are Muslims arrogant when they reject other religions? This is at the core of why I can't believe in Islam or any other religion, especially when they're so exclusive like that they say, if you believe in my stuff, whether through gullibility, whether through reasoned thinking, whether through indoctrination, whatever, if you believe in my stuff, good. If you believe in something else, I can ascribe multiple bad reasons for that. Nothing is understandable. Nothing God would just say, well, yeah, it makes sense. Like, my pitch kind of sucked. Why would someone believe in this? It sounds just as, unplausible as every other religion. No, it has to be arrogance. Has to be arrogance. I couldn't have written a script better myself to make Dawah men look arrogant, like know-it-alls, like they're really sleazy and tricky. this is what he wrote and put on his own website, this Fazal Rahman guy. Like, you know how easy it would be to like make up scenarios and scripts and situations to make Dawah men look bad. I don't do that. That's dishonest. I just go to their website. Anyway, perhaps next time we can do the conversation with a Christian. I don't know if we can, maybe we could bring a Christian on the live stream, but I don't know if they'd want to come because I would also have questions for them. It wouldn't just be like, let's point out how all the flaws in the Dawah method and just laugh at the Muslims while we ignore the hypocrisy of having a Christian on the stream. We don't do that here. You might see that in other ex-Muslim channels, which I've been very vocal about how much that aggravates me and how wrong that is. But no, we won't do that here. But if someone wants to join as a Christian who wants to, I guess, react to this script, but also still be in the hot seat about Christianity, please leave a comment after the live stream is over. Don't forget to like, subscribe, watch my other videos if I'm still posting them. And thank you to the patrons, YouTube members, and donors for keeping this channel going. I really could not do this without you. And thanks for your patience, with me during this period of less posting. And as always, think critically and think for yourself and consider watching one of these videos next. Bye-bye.